Aloha, I'm Dr. Matt James, the president and owner of the Empowerment Partnership, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what is NLP. Those three little letters, when put together, can definitely create some questions for individuals. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is an art and a science that was developed in the mid to late 70s by two individuals, Richard Bandler and John Grinder. Richard and John asked a powerful question. They asked an amazing question. Why is it that some people get results and other people don't get results? What's the difference? Why does one person who sits in a room and learns how to become a licensed marriage and family counselor, helps thousands of people, books written by this individual named Virginia Satir, and another person sitting in the exact same room, learning the exact same things, doesn't do anything? They asked a powerful question because our society has been largely based on this idea that if you learn A, B, and C, you should be able to produce a behavior that gets you a job, and you should be able to do something with that. And yet some people are game changers after learning ABC, and some people learn ABC and don't do anything with it. Richard Bandler and John Grinder asked this powerful question, and what they discovered is that the difference between a person who gets results is that they have a different way of communicating. Their communication with themselves, their communication with other individuals is on a whole nother level. They began to recognize that there are certain distinct things that individuals who are successful do that quite often are the opposite of what unsuccessful people do. Thus was born neuro-linguistic programming. The word neuro, neurology, your body. Linguistics, the language. And yeah, in the 70s, they used the word programming because, computer programming just came out and they thought it would be really cool to use the word programming. I remember when I began teaching this stuff in the 90s, when I was in my 20s, and a person came up to me and said, "I don't like that word programming. No one can program me." That wasn't really the idea. The idea behind it in the 70s was quite simple. Successful people know the programming language of the mind. Successful people know how to use their language to help other people tap into a deeper level of empowerment and results for themselves. If we were recreating NLP nowadays, it would be called neuro-linguistic apps. Everyone's pretty familiar with what an app is. Whether you have an iPhone or an Android or whatever type of smartphone you have apps on them. Kind of think of neuro-linguistic programming as a study of the operating system. Your mind has an operating system. Certain things are hardwired in, like the fight and flight response. As a doctor of psychology, I can tell you, with some techniques like NLP alone, you can't disconnect the fight or flight response. There are some things that are hardwired into your neurology that you're just not going to be able to undo. Then there are other things that you believe are fixed and stuck, and yet they're not. People can change habits instantaneously. People can shift their way of thinking, let go of negative emotions and limiting beliefs. In the 80s, NLP became pretty popular through an individual named Tony Robbins. Many of you have heard of Tony Robbins. He got his start in neuro-linguistic programming. When I was 11 years old, I took a NLP intro weekend with him. Ended up taking a practitioner training when I was 13 and a master practitioner training with Richard Bandler when I was 15 years old. Delved into this stuff really early, fell in love with it. In the 90s, we began to refine the technique. Didn't just look at people like Milton Erickson, Fritz Perls, Virginia Satir. We began to expand out, looking at people who were successful in business, people who are successful in relationships. The one thing that NLP gives us is a technique called modeling. NLP is basically just a series of modeled behaviors. Find a successful person, discover how they do what they do, learn how to incorporate that in yourself, and be able to teach that to others. By the late 90s, we had refined the technique pretty sufficiently where we had gotten rid of, in our company, the Empowerment Partnership, we had gotten rid of the things that don't really work or that you wouldn't be able to prove scientifically. Really focused in on the things that were helping people get results. We developed a technique called mental and emotional release, which I'll talk about in another video. A technique specifically designed to help people let go of baggage and limiting beliefs. I went back to school, I became a doctor of psychology, delved into the mind, looked at it from a alternative and complementary, from a traditional psychology, from a medical perspective. My degree is in integrative psychology, and discovered this huge, vast base of research, not just on NLP, but on related modalities that validate how powerful these techniques are. I know there are websites out there. I get this from my students all the time. Have people show up in trainings. I was just teaching up in Toronto. We had a group of about 100 people there, an amazing group of people. And this one lady walks up to me and she says, I went on this website and it says all these awful things about NLP, but I decided to come to the training anyway. She said, your aloha shirt was pretty, so I thought I'd come. And so I was like, all right. And she said, but why does this website say such negative things? And quite frankly, I don't know. There are people out there that say negative things about psychology, about medicine, about everything for that matter. As a doctor of psychology, I can tell you that some of the early research was done 10, 15 years ago. In 2006, a guy by the name of Wood studied NLP-based rapport techniques and was able to measure that NLP-based rapport techniques create more trust with someone in comparison to not using them. So in other words, when you use a technique that helps to establish rapport, and rapport is a fancy way of saying opening up the line of communication. When you use NLP-based rapport techniques, you can actually increase trust with someone in comparison to not using it. That was actually published in a peer-reviewed journal back in 2006. Since then, we have clinical research on many of the techniques that we teach, academic research, and the list goes on and on. The trainings that we teach are not meant to be academic. They're meant to be for you, to teach you basically how successful people operate. That's how I begin every single one of the trainings since I've been teaching in the 90s. I begin with a very simple thing. NLP is how do you, as an individual, become more successful by communicating better with yourself and having more effective communication with other people. The applications are limitless. We all know that a huge cornerstone of every successful relationship is communication. And I'm not just talking about intimate relationships. I'm talking about business relationships, relationship with your kids, relationship with friends and family, relationship with yourself. If you don't have effective communication, if you beat yourself up all the time, it's hard to get up and do the things that you want to do in life. If you can't effectively share with your partner, here's what my hope is, here's what my dream is, here's what inspires me and makes me feel loved. If you don't ever feel like you can get that point across, you're possibly left in a relationship feeling like you're unheard or that your partner maybe even doesn't care. Maybe your partner doesn't know how to communicate with you and you want to break down that barrier. I've worked with so many people in the area of career. That's the number one reason why people come take our trainings, to help improve their career. And you bet, you want to get that raise, you want to get that promotion, you want to run your own company, you better be able to communicate effectively. So our NLP trainings at the Empowerment Partnership are highly focused on how do you become clearer with your communication, with yourself, with other people, in whatever area you're working on. We draw from examples of all the major areas. And we help you learn what successful people do to achieve success. Look, I'm going to make it real simple. Having taught this now since the 90s, I think things boil down to one thing: being happy. You want to be happy in your career, you want to be happy with your health and fitness, you want to be happy in your relationship, your spiritual path, your personal growth with your family. Being happy comes from getting specific results. NLP teaches you how successful people get results and how to emulate that so that you can begin to achieve your results. Not mine, not those other people out there, but your results, the results that matter to you. And when you're able to do that and achieve those results, you bring in true happiness in your life. It's the easiest way to describe NLP. Anything more than that, I'm going to be getting into technical terms and people begin to gloss over at that point. So I hope that gives you a good enough explanation, a nice enough grounding explanation to help you understand what NLP is. And if you'd like to, you can read more on our website. Take a look at my blog at drmatt.com. Tons of articles out there that you can see how to apply this stuff to spiritual, personal growth, career, health and fitness, family. Or go ahead and click on one of the links and see where we're coming to next. Whatever it is, I hope you delve into this and truly begin to learn how to tap into the empowerment you have inside yourself. Take care. Aloha.